Welcome to the channel and get ready for an exciting deep dive because today we are exploring one of the most mind-blowing stories in the world of rare coins, a story that turns an ordinary penny into a jaw-dropping $61 million treasure. And yes, we are talking about the legendary and unbelievably valuable 1945 Wheat Penny, a coin that most people have seen, spent, dropped, or lost without a second thought. Yet hiding in plain sight among those billions of minted pennies are extremely rare errors and mystery variations capable of turning someone into a millionaire overnight. So stick around all the way to the end because this single coin, the 1945 Wheat Penny, holds secrets that coin collectors have been obsessed with for decades, and today we dive into every tiny detail, every mistake, every minting problem, every mystery metal transition, and every possibility that has allowed certain rare 1945 pennies to command values that soar into the tens of millions of dollars. And imagine for a moment you walk into a store, buy a drink or some candy, receive a bit of change, and hidden among the coins is something you think is an ordinary old penny, but instead you are holding a $61 million piece of American history, a piece of metal that traveled through time since the end of World War II. A penny struck during one of the most dramatic and resource-challenging moments in the United States Mint's history, a time when copper was needed for bullets, wires, communication equipment, and victory efforts, a time when every coin's production mattered and mistakes were almost guaranteed to happen under intense pressure, which is exactly why the 1945 Wheat Penny remains one of the most intriguing and potentially valuable collectible coins ever made. And let's start by appreciating the year 1945 itself, a year marked by the end of the war, a surge of emotional change, soldiers returning home, families rebuilding their lives, and economic transitions happening quickly across America, and the U.S. Mint, constantly adapting, continued striking wheat pennies using bronze alloy consisting mostly of copper. But here's where the story gets thrilling, because whenever transitions, shortages, recycling, and experimentation happen at the Mint, errors become far more likely, making tiny differences extremely important today. And that is exactly what gives the 1945 Wheat Penny its enormous potential value when the right errors are involved. And speaking of errors, these are what collectors live and breathe for, and the 1945 penny has a wide range of them. Some so subtle that even trained eyes overlook them, yet rare enough that the right buyer would pay a fortune. And one of the most astonishing possibilities is the existence of a few 1945 pennies struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943 or possibly even transitional brass planchets that should not have been used, meaning instead of the normal bronze composition, a handful were mistakenly minted on the wrong metal. And imagine discovering a silvery-colored steel 1945 penny. It would be shocking because everyone knows steel pennies were only made in 1943. That means any legitimate 1945 steel planchet strike would be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and that alone could launch bidding wars into the millions because we're talking a coin that literally should not exist. But that's not the only magical twist, because during these years planchets were sometimes recycled, melted down from wartime shell casings, which introduce small variations in composition, and any 1945 penny that deviates enough from standard copper to test out as an unusual alloy becomes a scientific mystery piece that collectors crave. But beyond the metal, the minting process itself had plenty of opportunities for errors. Double die errors are among the most famous, and the 1945 penny has several stunning double die variations, especially on the obverse where Lincoln's profile, his eye, the date, the words Liberty, or In God We Trust can show doubling, making those coins special and in pristine condition extremely valuable, and collectors always want strong doubling that is easily visible without microscopes, strong enough that even a quick glance makes you say wow, something is definitely different here. And the stronger the doubling, the higher the bidding price climbs, especially if the coin is in high grade, because condition is everything, and finding a coin from 1945 still shining with full original luster, sharp edges, no scratching, no wear, is almost impossible because these coins circulated heavily for decades. Now imagine a rare double die in nearly flawless condition. Suddenly we're stepping into the multi-million-dollar territory, and then we have off-center strikes, another thrilling minting mishap, where the die and the planchet didn't align perfectly, causing the design to shift noticeably off the center, and the more dramatic the shift, while still showing the date fully, the more collectors go crazy for it, because off-center pennies that leave the year 1945 visible confirm authenticity and rarity, and some of these extreme off-center pieces have already sold for incredible sums. But when an off-center error combines with other errors like double die or wrong planchet metal, the value doesn't just add up, it multiplies exponentially. And this is how the legend of the $61 million value becomes realistic, because when a single coin contains multiple rare traits, its rarity classification skyrockets to a level almost unmatched in the numismatic world. And we're still not done, because clipped planchets also make the 1945 penny highly collectible when pieces of metal were accidentally cut incorrectly before striking, leaving crescent-shaped bites missing from the coin's rim. And these too can escalate value, especially when well centered with full design details, proving it is a legitimate mint mistake rather than post-mint damage. And then there are die cracks and die breaks, meaning cracks developed on the die used to strike coins, and those cracks appear as raised lines or shapes on the finished coin, sometimes even forming dramatic shapes across Lincoln's face, coat, or the wheat stalks on the reverse, and any major die break turning into what collectors call a cud, where a piece of the die has fallen away leaving a blob-like raised area, can earn thousands or more, but again condition multiplies everything, especially when the coin is found in mint state grades. And speaking of reverse details, the wheat ears themselves provide crucial clues, because strong clear wheat lines showing no wear are extremely desirable, and the slightest softness or fading normally reduces price, unless it is caused by an error rather than circulation. And if a 1945 penny has mirrored proof-like surfaces or unusually sharp strike quality from freshly prepared dies, collectors start paying attention, because even though proofs were not officially issued for circulation in 1945, experimental strikes or special die preparation could have created coins with exceptional finishes, making them a thrilling mystery worthy of staggering auction results. And something else adding value to these rare specimens is the existence of different mint marks from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each with its own unique strike patterns, planchet inconsistencies, and known varieties, and Denver mint errors. Like repunched mint marks where the D was stamped more than once show fascinating doubling under magnification, and San Francisco coins often reveal distinct die wear characteristics, so specialists study every tiny detail carefully, because the more unusual the error, the bigger the value explosion, and rarity always pairs with demand. And the 1945 wheat penny has both, because millions of collectors know that wheat cents hold sentimental history connected to Lincoln and America's wartime resilience, which means even normal 1945 pennies are treasured. But when one coin stands out from billions, when one coin shows errors so stunning that experts believe only one or two exist, then auctions turn fierce, and investors join in, pushing the price beyond logical boundaries until numbers like $61 million appear. And some experts even believe certain versions have never been publicly discovered yet, meaning the most valuable 1945 penny could still be sitting quietly in someone's old jar, hidden in a drawer, or buried under decades of pocket change, waiting for the right moment to shock the world. And the idea that something so small can hold such extraordinary worth is what keeps the thrill alive, because the search for rare wheat pennies is not just a hobby, it is a treasure hunt, a chance for history and fortune to meet in the palm of your hand. And imagine that life-changing moment when a collector or everyday person compares their coin, notices a wrong metal glimmer, a doubled date, a dramatic misalignment. Next. 1958, D Wheat Penny. Today we are diving into the mind-blowing story of a 1958 D Wheat Penny that is said to be worth a staggering $41 million, Yes, you heard that right. A single 1-cent coin from 1958 produced by the Denver Mint that could change the life of anyone lucky enough to find it. And in this massive deep dive, we will explore exactly why this tiny copper piece has soared into the spotlight, what kinds of errors and hidden mistakes could cause its value to explode to such an incredible number, and how the combination of rarity, minting flaws, condition, demand, and collector obsession all play a major role in transforming something so ordinary into something that could fund a dream home, exotic vacations, a luxury lifestyle, or even future investments beyond imagination. And while most people think a penny is just a penny, this story will show how the right one can be a treasure worth more than gold, diamonds, or watches, because the world of numismatics is filled with mysteries, surprises, and thrilling possibilities, especially when we talk about the last years of the Wheat Penny series, one of the most beloved coin series in American history, and 1958 marks the final year that the famous wheat ears design appeared on the reverse of the penny before the Lincoln Memorial design took over in 1959, making every wheat penny from 1958 not just currency but also a historical collectible, a marker of transition in American coinage. And when we add the Denver Mint mark, which is represented by the letter D beneath the date, we get a huge production run but also the potential for mistakes during striking, because the Denver Mint was pushing out millions upon millions of coins to meet circulation needs, which means among that enormous output there are hidden gems, errors that slipped into the hands of the public unnoticed, and only later discovered by sharp-eyed collectors who know exactly what to look for. And with a coin like the 1958 D Wheat Penny, it's the errors that become the star of the story, errors like doubled dies where the design appears doubled due to a faulty hubbing process, and although the famous doubled die for the 1958 penny is mostly linked with the Philadelphia version, there are whispers and intriguing possibilities that Denver may have also produced some barely known or even undiscovered doubled die strikes. And if one were to surface in pristine condition, especially in mint state with eye-popping luster, sharp details, original red copper tone preserved, and certified by a top grading service like PCGS or NGC, then suddenly the price skyrockets into the millions because collectors go wild for uniqueness and historic minting flaws. And then we have off-center strikes where the design is not perfectly aligned with the blank planchet, leaving part of the coin blank or warped in a strange but exciting way, and the farther off-center but still readable the date and mint mark remain, the more valuable the piece becomes, because collectors see not a mistake but an artwork of chance created by the minting machinery itself. And then we also consider die cracks, filled dies, and cuds where parts of the die break away leaving raised lumps or missing details on the coin. And all of these can dramatically increase value depending on the location, visibility, and severity of the flaw. And there are also repunched mint marks, shortened to RPMs, where the Denver D was struck more than once, leading to doubled or even tripled impressions visible under magnification, an error category that many collectors obsess over due to the variety of known combinations and undiscovered ones possibly still hiding in penny jars across America. And imagine stumbling upon a 1958 D Wheat penny with an incredibly dramatic RPM, original red brilliance, graded MS67 or even MS68 red, a level of perfection that is extremely rare for coins from this era since most went through circulation and picked up wear, scratches, and environmental damage, but the few that were preserved strangely well, may be tucked away in a bank roll or storage envelope for decades without exposure to air or fingerprints, could become the top tier of rarity. And when anything becomes the best known example in existence, collectors will pay enormous prices to possess it, because in the world of rare coins it's a competition, a hunt for the finest, a desire to own something no one else has, and this drives up auction battles, where wealthy investors, private collectors, and museum buyers go head-to-head, sometimes pushing bids far beyond expected estimates, which is exactly how a coin that cost 1 cent to make could end up being worth over $40 million, And let's not forget the transition significance that enhances the historical appeal of the 1958 coins. As the wheat design had been around since 1909 when it was introduced to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, and collectors who focus on theme based sets especially adore completing full wheat series collections, making the final year a must-have, and scarcity of high-grade examples only intensifies demand. Plus copper composition adds another interesting layer because 1958 pennies were made of 95% copper and only 5% tin and zinc, unlike later pennies which switched to copper-plated zinc starting in 1982, making earlier pennies heavier, richer in metal content, and more substantial in appearance, so metal stackers and enthusiasts also seek them out, and if a coin has an unusual toning pattern, maybe rainbow-like colors caused by decades of oxidation in just the right conditions, then visual appeal becomes a premium factor too, pushing value even higher as the coin transforms into something like a miniature piece of fine art, and sometimes unique misstrikes like double strikes, where the coin was struck twice but slightly rotated or shifted between strikes, create overlapping images that look fascinating, drawing even higher bids from those who want showpiece errors in their collections. And as collectors know, provenance or the story behind the coin also boosts excitement and value, especially if a famous numismatist or well-known collector previously owned it. And then there's hype, which cannot be underestimated, because when rumors spread that a specific year and mint mark has ultra-rare undiscovered errors, treasure hunters everywhere start checking old jars, storage boxes, inherited collections, and even pocket change with magnifying glasses, hoping to be the lucky one who finds the next multi-million-dollar penny, which creates a market frenzy that further pushes up prices for anything that remotely shows signs of rarity. And coins from Denver often have subtle characteristics from the minting process that differentiate them from Philadelphia coins, meaning specialists know exactly how to identify unique die markers, subtle variations, and tiny flaws that can make a dramatic difference in price. So when we picture a 1958 wheat penny that has multiple desirable features, like an extremely rare double die obverse combined with a repunched mint mark, plus high grade, plus original red luster, plus a remarkable strike with full details and Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks on the reverse, we are imagining a once-in-a-lifetime rarity that auction houses would fight to host, and bidders would stop at nothing to win, which could realistically result in bids climbing into the tens of millions, and yes, even reaching an astonishing $41 million if the coin becomes the headline sensation of the year. And imagine the buzz, the articles, the documentaries, the interviews that would erupt over such a discovery, making the coin even more famous and reinforcing its high market value. And when you think about how many millions of 1958 pennies were made, it seems crazy that a single one could be worth more than a mansion, but that's the beauty of collectibles, because it's not about quantity, it's about quality, rarity, desirability, and mystery. And the idea that a coin you could find in a dusty drawer could secretly be a hidden fortune is part of what makes this hobby so exhilarating. And collectors who chase wheat pennies often have checklists of known varieties but also dream constantly about discovering new ones, because new finds shake up the entire hobby, rewriting catalogs, updating pricing guides, and inspiring more people to join the hunt. And that is why stories about the million-dollar pennies capture global attention and spark endless discussions. And while most 1958 pennies you encounter will only be worth a few cents or maybe a couple dollars if in nicer condition. Next, 1954 wheat penny. Today's story will absolutely leave you stunned as we take a deep look into the mysterious, legendary, and incredibly valuable 1954 wheat penny that collectors believe could reach an astonishing value of $32 million thanks to a combination of hidden errors, rare striking mistakes, misunderstood history, and the thrilling possibility that something far more unusual happened at the San Francisco Mint in 1954, because imagine holding in your hand a coin that most people would ignore in their pocket change, a simple Lincoln cent minted in the later years of the beloved Wheat Penny series, yet this very coin could secretly be one of the most valuable treasures in American coinage, a life-changing fortune tucked away in a dusty coin jar or forgotten in an old dresser. And to understand why this seemingly ordinary penny could command such a huge price, we must journey back to the era when the United States Mint was transitioning into modern production techniques. Dealing with leftover equipment from wartime pressures and shifting demands in the economy, which created an environment ripe for unexpected minting anomalies, so picture the 1954 S-penny, struck in San Francisco during a time when mint workers handled enormous volumes of coins quickly, sometimes too quickly, because everything needed to move fast, and speed often leads to mistakes, and mistakes in coin minting can turn into rare treasures worth unimaginable amounts of money, like doubled dies, where the design is stamped twice slightly off alignment, adding ghost-like outlines around numbers or letters, and experts suspect that some rare 1954 Wheat pennies exist with doubled features on the date, the mint mark S or Lincoln's profile, which, under the right authentication and grading, could turn an extra common cent into a multi-million-dollar rarity, especially if that doubling appeared only on a tiny batch of coins before mint officials caught the error and halted production. But that's only the beginning, because another potentially enormous factor behind the value of these coins is the mystery surrounding leftover steel planchets from the wartime era, since in 1943 pennies were made from zinc-coated steel due to copper rationing for World War II, and even after returning to copper planchets in 1944, a few leftover steel blanks accidentally slipped through in 1944, 1945, 1946, and possibly even later, and this leads collectors to speculate that a tiny number of 1954 pennies could have been struck on wrong planchets such as steel, silver alloy, or even leftover brass variants, making them instantly historic and ultra-valuable. And imagine the thrill of discovering a 1954 Wheat penny that sticks to a magnet, because that alone would trigger experts to drive its value into the stratosphere. And beyond metal composition errors, there could also be dramatic striking mistakes like off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, broad strikes that expand the coin's diameter, or clipped planchet mistakes where a curved section is missing at the edge because the blank sheet was misfed into the puncher. But collectors are especially obsessed with the possibility that the mint mark itself might have been punched multiple times by hand, creating RPM errors, mint mark repunched varieties where the S sits slightly above or below the original punch, visible under magnification, and driving collectors wild because such errors are incredibly appealing due to their uniqueness and scarcity. And since the Wheat penny design was nearing its end with only a couple more years before the reverse change to the Lincoln Memorial, coins from the mid-1950s are heavily studied by experts looking for differences that could identify incredibly early or late die states, cracks in the dies forming raised lines on the coin known as die cracks, or cut errors when chunks of the die break off leading to big blobs of metal on the rim, and some of these can dramatically increase the value of a coin, especially when combined with other errors like doubling or striking flaws. But the true heart-pounding excitement comes from believing that among the millions of 1954 pennies released into circulation, just a handful might have survived in pristine condition, untouched by wear, boasting blazing original luster, preserved as if time itself protected them. And if such a coin also includes one of the major errors speculated about, collectors would fight fiercely to own it, driving its market price far beyond typical valuations and leading to news headlines about a common-looking wheat penny selling for tens of millions of dollars. And when stories circulate within coin communities about anonymous private collectors paying extreme premiums for secret varieties that barely anyone has ever seen, rumors grow, excitement explodes, and soon the idea of a $32 million 1954 penny becomes not just a fantasy but a thrilling possibility, waiting to be proven, because the coin market thrives on rarity and mystery, and with each rediscovery of a rare coin in someone's attic, the hope grows that another hidden treasure could be lurking out there. And let's not forget that many mint records from the mid-20th century aren't perfect, meaning there could easily have been small experimental batches or undocumented striking events lost in time, adding that extra spark of wonder as collectors imagine secret sets of error coins never meant to circulate, yet somehow released into everyday commerce. And on top of that, grading organizations can significantly multiply the value when they label a coin with top preservation grades like MS-67 or MS-68, grades that are exceptionally rare for wheat pennies of this era due to weak strikes and handling issues at the mint. So combine a top-grade surface condition with a double die, a repunched mint mark, or an unexpected metal composition error, and suddenly you have a piece of American history worth far more than its weight in copper, a coin whose rarity could turn a lucky finder into a millionaire overnight. And the chase for such coins creates excitement not only for expert collectors but also for everyday people searching their old change for miracles, pushing the legend of the 1954 Wheat Penny into the realm of treasure hunting dreams. And that's what keeps this fascinating story alive, because every time someone spreads the rumor of a discovered oddity, every time a collector claims to have spotted an unusual mint mark punch or a strange striking quality, the myth grows bigger, more thrilling, and more desirable, and suddenly everyone wants to check their penny jars, search through old boxes inherited from grandparents, or visit antique markets in hopes of finding one of these potential multimillion-dollar coins, fueling excitement and speculation, which in itself drives prices even higher, showing how both rarity and hype make a powerful combination. And imagine the tension and anticipation when experts examine a newly found coin under magnification, their eyes widening at subtle doubling of the numbers, or detecting a die break that perfectly matches a rumored ultra-rare variety believed to exist only in whispers. And collectors know that if a coin like this were to appear at an auction, bidding wars would erupt beyond anything seen before in the wheat penny market, because the combination of historical mystery, potential errors, and the limited Brooklyn Bridge-style rarity creates the perfect storm for sky-high value, especially when wealthy collectors enter the scene, ready to pay whatever it takes to secure something so unique that no one else in the world can own one like it. And all these layers of potential rarity, error types, and mythic scarcity build the narrative that the 1954 Wheat Penny could reach that unbelievable $32 million price tag, transforming what looks like a normal penny into one of the most prized treasures in U.S. coin collecting history, inspiring dreams, fueling investigations, and keeping collectors searching relentlessly, hoping that one day they will be the lucky person who discovers that unbelievable piece of copper hiding in plain sight. And as we wrap up this mind-blowing tale of what could be one of the most valuable coins ever dreamed of, make sure you stay connected, keep searching your change and old collections, because the next legendary multi-million-dollar discovery might be just one penny away. And if you enjoyed this incredible deep dive into the wild world of rare currency treasures, then be sure to like this video, subscribe for more amazing coin hunting adventures, and turn on notifications so you never miss a chance to learn about the next everyday coin that could be your ticket to unbelievable fortune. Today we are talking about a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and history lovers all over the world. A coin that might look ordinary at first glance but has the potential to make someone unbelievably rich, the legendary 1953 Wheat Penny that collectors speculate could be worth a staggering $11 million due to incredibly rare errors and minting mistakes that make it one of the most desirable finds in United States coinage history. And as we go on this journey together, we will explore how a humble 1-cent piece struck in Denver in 1953 during a booming post-war American era became a symbol of numismatic mystery, extreme rarity, and mind-blowing value. So sit tight and imagine the rush of excitement when searching through a jar of old pennies only to stumble upon what might be one of these extraordinary and extremely valuable examples of the 1953 wheat cent that holds secrets visible only to the trained eye. And we will explore how these coins came into existence, what went wrong at the mint that could make them so special, why collectors are willing to pay millions of dollars for the right piece, and how you can look for these clues in your own spare change, because the thrill of coin collecting is that life-changing discoveries can still be made today. And the story of the 1953 Wheat penny begins during a time when the U.S. Mint in Denver was producing millions of pennies, made mostly of copper with a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, and while most of these coins rolled off the presses perfectly and entered circulation without fanfare, a very small number might have taken a different path through the minting process, experiencing misalignment, doubled dies, off-center strikes, planchet imperfections, mint mark anomalies, and other flaws that transformed them from ordinary currency into highly sought-after collectibles worth huge money. And what makes the possibility of an $11 million price tag so fascinating is that it is not just one error that matters, but rather the combination of multiple dramatic mistakes that could appear together in such a rare and eye-catching way that collectors would go into absolute bidding wars for possession of such a tiny metal relic. As the Wheat Penny series has always been popular due to its rich historical value and beautiful design that features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse with the wheat ears on the reverse representing American prosperity, and during 1953 the Denver Mint marked its coins with a small D mint mark beneath the date, because huge quantities were struck and put into commerce, and while mass production often meant consistency, it also opened the door for occasional but significant human or mechanical errors that slip through quality control, and when we consider how these errors occur, we look at double die varieties, which emerge when the hub imprints the design onto the die more than once, but slightly misaligned, causing a shadow-like doubling around the numbers in the date, the letters in Liberty or the motto, "In God We Trust," and even the details of Lincoln's portrait. And if a 1953 Wheat penny exists with such intense doubling that it is easily visible to the naked eye, and combined with another rare flaw like a repunched mint mark where the D appears doubled, tripled, or positioned incorrectly on the coin, suddenly collectors begin to take notice, because this kind of dramatic uniqueness is what drives prices into the millions. And on top of that, imagine if the coin was also struck on the wrong metal planchet, like a leftover bronze planchet intended for a different year, or perhaps a transitional composition mistake, and the metal content itself could dramatically raise its rarity and resulting worth, because in the world of collectible coins, authenticity plus rarity plus demand equals exceptional monetary value. And considering how the mint machinery functioned in the 1950s, dies frequently wore out, became polished, or were replaced, and such changes sometimes created significant differences in the sharpness of details, alignment issues, or legend spacing. And if a coin escaped the presses with a die crack, a lamination error where the metal layer peels or flakes, or clipping where part of the rim is missing, those imperfections can tell a story of hurried production and factory oversight that increases desirability among collectors who love tracking the evolution of minting technology over time. And the sentimental appeal of Lincoln Wheat pennies also adds to their charm, as they represent a bygone era of U.S. coinage. People treasure them not just for their metal but for the nostalgic history they hold from pocket change in the mid-20th century, when America was recovering from World War II and advancing into new social and industrial frontiers. And this emotional connection strengthens the collectible market, where a unique 1953 penny becomes not just a coin but a rare artifact of American culture, and value can go even higher when provenance comes into play, meaning if a rare coin has a documented history or has been previously sold at major auction houses, its fame alone can escalate its price rapidly. And so, as we explore the possibilities, consider a scenario where a 1953 penny has multiple significant errors stacked together: a dramatic double die on the obverse, a bold mint mark repunching error, a lamination peel across the wheat reverse, near perfect condition with original mint luster meaning the coin never really circulated, and an expert grading company like PCGS or NGC certifying it as one of a kind. Such a discovery would shake the coin market to its core, and collectors with deep pockets would do anything to obtain this ultimate rarity. and when collectors compete passionately for ownership, the sky's the limit for auction prices, creating the perfect justification for why such a coin could reach $11 million or possibly even more if the demand spikes or new attention shines on rare wheat pennies in the future. And let's imagine how these errors could appear visually, because this helps treasure hunters know what to look for. Picture holding a 1953 D penny up to the light and noticing the number 5 and the date looks thicker, doubled, or has a ghost-like image beside it. Or perhaps the D mint mark looks like it was punched twice in slightly different spots, creating a noticeable layered effect. Or maybe Lincoln's profile looks unusual with extra lines around his lips, eyes, or coat that shouldn't be there, clues to double die strikes that are among the most celebrated minting errors. And then maybe turning the coin over reveals the wheat stalks on the reverse are misaligned or missing details, or the lettering 1 cent appears distorted or shifted due to die deterioration or striking problems. And those who truly understand the minting process know that every tiny irregularity in a coin can significantly change its story and its value, especially when authenticated and documented by skilled experts who determine which errors are truly unique and not manufactured or damaged after leaving the mint. And collectors need to be aware that not every odd-looking penny is worth millions, because circulation wear and regular age-related blemishes do not create rarity. The mint error has to be genuine and significant to elevate a coin into the world of multimillion-dollar treasures, and condition grading becomes a vital factor, because the fewer marks and abrasions a coin has, the more stunning it appears to collectors, and the highest graded examples known for any year instantly become coveted. So if someone finds a near-perfect 1953 D wheat penny with massive errors that escape the mint untouched, that is something beyond extraordinary, a true miracle of survival in the harsh environment of everyday commerce. And this leads us to the excitement of searching through old change drawers, inherited coin jars, thrift store donations, flea market finds, or bank rolls, because rare coins still surface today in the most unexpected places. And the beauty of this hobby is the possibility that a person unaware of coin values might accidentally spend a rare wheat penny at a store, sending it back into the world where a lucky finder could reclaim its importance and bring it into the spotlight. And the more stories of jackpot discoveries we hear, the more the dream grows that priceless artifacts like the 1953 D $11 million penny are still out there waiting to be found. And numismatics, the science and art of coin collecting, thrives on curiosity, research, and passion, which is why communities